Welcome to ABCNYS Today, a brief, regular audio update helping to keep our American Baptist community in upstate New York connected. And in this episode, we'll start with an interview with Pat Ludwig. She's the president of our region's, our ABCNYS, our region's Ministers' Council. And she also have a word about the Space for Grace conference she just returned from. We'll include some follow-up to our interview today and anything else that comes before the meeting. So let's get started. We have as our guest today Pat Ludwig, who is the president of the Ministers' Council here in New York State, as well as other things. And we also have the benefit of her having just returned from the Space for Grace conference. And I thought we'd pick her brain about that as well. So it's good to have you with us today, Pat.
Thank you, Paul, for inviting me. I'm glad to be here. And I loved Space for Grace and I love Ministers' Council. So I am ready to talk about whatever you want.
Good. Now, you also wear a number of hats. You're a pastor, and what else?
Correct. I actually am an interim pastor. I haven't, I retired in 2012. And since then, I've been doing a lot of either supply preaching or interim. But I'm very involved in some of our Baptist things here in New York region. I represent Ministers' Council on the Board of Mission. I'm also a member at large on the Board of Mission. I'm also on the nominating committee of the region, quite steeped into our Baptist life, both locally and in the region. And I enjoy it all.
Well, very, very good. And now, before we jump into Ministers' Council, you just came back from, I think it was in the Cleveland area, Space for Grace conference. It's a national conference, and there's been a few of them. What was that experience like?
I've been to 3 of them. I've been to the last 3. They're held every other year, opposite of when they have the biennial. And I enjoy it because, first of all, it's like all Baptist get-togethers. It's like a big family reunion for those who know each other and know each other in their area or across the United States and national and all this stuff. So there's a lot of joy and a lot of getting together and a lot of to. What I like is, first of all, the worship is all inclusive and it's a variety of different choirs, different speakers, different preachers, different people involved, of the diversity that we have in our ABC family. And so you hear some of the most dynamic preachers, and some that really turn you on, and some that really make you think, and some that you want to go back and take some of their nuggets of wisdom and try to apply it not only to your ministry, but what you want people to get excited about. So I really enjoyed that because it was spirit-filled worship. On top of that, you have your, they call them now breakout sessions. In my day and age, we used to call them workshops, but whatever we call them, it's a more intimate setting. You don't have as many people, and you learn different things you learn about ministry. And this year, the theme was storytelling and different ways you can help people tell their faith story, different ways people can share without feeling threatened, but feeling that they're in a safe space to do that. And one of the key hymns was "I Love to Tell the Story," and everybody was singing it, and it was in harmony, and you could tell people were enjoying telling their story and sharing their story in these workshops and the plenary sessions and the speakers and the preachers and everything that I went to. I got something out of. The most fun thing, this is going to sound funny, is they had a big exhibition room, excuse me. And I loved going to all the different exhibits because there were all kinds, and they were like seminary type visits, and there was National Baptist, different organizations that they had that you could talk to people. I spent one whole afternoon just doing that, and it took about 2.5 hours because people were wanting to talk, and you had a chance to ask the questions, and that was fun too.
Someone hadn't been to a national biennial, or a national meeting like this, it really is a unique experience, being able to gather like that.
It is, and then I just highly recommend it, and I'm just so glad that I've had the opportunity and the health to be able to go to 3 of them.
Well, I know your main role for the interview had to do with being a part of the Ministers' Council. And when I started in ministry, I first learned that there was a ministers' council back in the 1980s, and it sounded almost like a pastors' union. I've been a member of a teachers' union, but it almost sounded like it was a union for pastors. Um, and it's really not that, but in other ways it is. Um, how would you describe the purpose of the ministers' council in general?
Well, my husband is a member of the Electricians Union, IBEW, and Ministers Council is not at all like I know what the IBEW is, the union there, because we don't deal with benefits, we don't deal with salary, unless you talk about it, but that's not the purpose. So it's more than a union, it's more of a collegiality kind of thing. You come together with people who are doing ministry, whether it's Christian education, whether it's associate pastor, whether it's lay pastors, ordained pastors, anybody who's doing feeling called by God to do ministry in their with their gifts. And so part of it is collegiality, getting together. You could call it networking, but kind of picking each other's brains and helping to understand, especially when I was younger and in it, listening to the old timers. I don't want to call us old, but listen to those who had more wisdom and more experience. And now I find myself in that role because people are talking to me. So part of it is that. Part of it is that whole connection of we're doing ministry together, and how can we encourage and support one another, and what can we learn from the speakers we have or the resource leaders who have come. Part of it is also checking our using it ways to check our competence, because you can't go through ministry. Excuse me, I haven't been able to go through ministry without going to these kinds of places, whether it's Ministers' Council or Space for Grace or other kind of conferences, to learn something, to be a better pastor, to be a better listener, to be a better preacher, to be a better compassionate, caring person. So it's collegiality, it's competence, it's connectiveness, which is the three that they emphasize in national as well as ours. And I've supported it as long as I've been in the Baptist tradition and been a Baptist pastor, and it's helping us to grow in our roles and going on retreats that have resource leaders, but sometimes just being in the spirit of God with the other people, we get energized. So yeah, I would not call it a union at all, but I would call it a gathering of people who receive the call and want to continue to grow in the call and their faith with to God. So that's kind of how I would describe it. I don't know.
What kinds of things does the New York State Ministers Council do?
Previously to the last couple of years, we almost always once a year. I think there might have been some exceptions during COVID, like there were a lot of exceptions in church life during COVID. We always offered a 2-day or 2-night, 2.5-day retreat at various retreat centers around our region. And we would usually ask a resource person, someone who had knowledge in various different, we've had biblical scholars come in. We had one woman one time come in. It was wonderful about forgiveness and how do we go about doing that, and what are some of the things we can share with our people. We've had people come in. Margaret Margison, who some people know, came in and did a whole series on stewardship and how do we talk about money and how do we ask people to look at just, well, not think giving to their churches, oh my God, they're always asking for money, but how do we use it in our life to share the abundance God has given us? Recently, we've been doing 1-day events, and that's worked well too, because some people couldn't go for the 2.5 days or couldn't go overnight or maybe didn't want to spend that kind of money. So we've had 1-day events. Last year, one of the things we did was we call it a retreat, but the Ministers' Council people staffed that themselves. The people who had knowledge about what it is to be in a retreat, what it is to have moments of silence, what it is to have prayers from the mystics, prayers from modern day. How do we journal? How do we find ways to get in touch with the spirit side of our life instead of just going and doing ministry, but how do we be in ministry? And
Mm,
this year, we have another event coming up similar to that, but we will have a resource leader for that.
very good. Now, there is a national ministers' council, and people, if they want to really find out about that, could go on the ministers' council website to learn more. There's a number of resources, and it links you up with some things that are going on. Are there any things that stick out in your mind in terms of what the ministers' council does nationally?
If people go to their website and click on um, the things that they offer, they're going to discover a lot of variety. There's webinars that they offer. There's moments of prayer during the week and during special times of year like Advent and Lent, and sometimes when there's a crisis, when there's a crisis in our country, I chuckle because it seems like we're always in crisis, but maybe that's how God planned it so that we would come to depend on God. But they do things like that.
Well, I think one of the things on that website too was that's very local in my mind is that years ago there was a grant that they offered for starting together in ministry groups where ministers would get together. And I'm in one that's had many people come and go as they've retired or moved, but it's been one continuous together ministry group for all these years. And I was impressed they still offer small monetary grants for groups to do something specific if they could take advantage of that.
The other thing I want to emphasize is you do not need to be part of Ministers Council to come to our events. You don't have to be a member. There is a benefit because it's a reduced fee if you are a member, but you don't have to be a member. Not everybody can join or wants to join, but we offer these for everyone, not just members of the church.
Really, the last question I was thinking about was how does one become part of the Ministers' Council then? Do they contact you or how does that
Yeah,
work?
it would be best to contact me, and I can send people the membership form, and that gives you the directions to send your check and how much it is. It's $50. It's one check, but it's $50 stays here in New York for our region to offer these events, and $25 we send to national.
Last words.
Yes, I want to announce that we have a fall event coming up, and it's for anybody in ministry. You don't have to be a member on Monday, September 21st. And we chose that because it's some people say it's the first day or the day before the first day of autumn. And we thought, what a wonderful way to begin your autumn season. Our guest person is going to be our new associate executive minister, Cheryl Frank. Those are my last comments. And if you have any more questions, I'm open. But this has been fun, and I've enjoyed talking
Great.
about two of my favorite topics.
Very good. Thank you. Pat, what is your email address before we sign off?
Yeah, it's one that I've had for years, and I love it. It's butterfly preacher at juno.com.
Oh, that's easy. That's an easy one to remember. So
Yeah,
that's a good one. So,
yeah.
well, thank you so much for being with us today and for the updating on the information on both those things, Space for Grace and Ministers Council. And we look forward to enjoying those events in the future. So thanks for
Okay.
being with us.
Well, thank you for having me, Paul. Have a good day. Bye now.
Bye bye. And now for some news regarding the Space for Grace conference that Pat talked about. If you'd like to hear more about that conference, you can actually subscribe to the video recordings of the presentations. It can be found at abhms.org, the Home Mission Society's website, and you're going to be looking for the S4G Plus option, and you can get some video reports from that conference. And regarding the Ministers' Council, one thing on their website, ministerscouncil.com, is the Code of Ethics. It's been revised, and you can find a guide to the Code of Ethics that's there. It is an important document just to review from time to time in terms of how we operate in a responsible way. And then there is a fall event here in New York State, September 21st. The New York State Ministers Council will be sponsoring, and you can be looking forward to more information about that as we get closer. You can always find out more information about news and happenings here in the region at the regional website at abc-nys.org, or check out the regional emails or certainly our Facebook page. Finally, just between you and me, this is a great time, especially if you need some encouragement. Go ahead and Google best commencement speeches or best graduation speeches. Um, it's always inspiring in times that may or may not, for you personally or in your world, you may need to be inspired. But this year, Eric Church's speech at the University of North Carolina really is an encouraging one, especially for people of faith as well. So be encouraged and watch some graduation speeches, even if it's been a long time since you graduated. Thank you for listening. Please share this program, show others how to follow the podcast on their devices, and let people in your congregation know. Pastors, church leaders, people in the pews, and any interested listeners are welcome. We are really focusing on our American Baptist community in upstate New York. In our next episode, we will be talking about Baptist history since this is an anniversary year for our country. We'll be talking with Susie Hariff, who teaches the Baptist history. It's about to change its name, that class, for the lay study program. And Larry Bell, who teaches church history for that same lay study program. In Baptist tradition, anything said in this program is the sole responsibility of the speaker and does not necessarily reflect the views of everyone in our American Baptist community. That beautiful music is played by Mary Schwartz. And until we meet again, may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with you. This is your host, Paul Bailey.